Hello, everyone. Welcome to our first ever online session. My name is Manisha. I basically take care of brand marketing at Little Innovation. Today, I have Megha and Rupam with me, and we are going to talk about digital transformation and the myths that go around about it. Now, this discussion will be helpful for enterprises who are in the process of adopting digital transformation solutions. It could give you an understanding of what might go right or wrong in your digital transformation journey. Just to give you a quick background about us, we basically help businesses adopt digital transformation and deep technology solutions using the data and information you already possess. So before diving into this discussion, let me pass on the floor to my teammates.
Hi everyone, I'm Megha. I'm the Business Development Associate for Needle. I work out of Greater Boston area.
Hey everyone, hi. This is Rupam here. I'm one of the co-founders at Needle, and I've been at the helm of startups in India and also the world ecosystem for quite some time. And for the last 5 years or so, we have been trying to enable digital transformation for enterprises around the world using, as Manisha was saying, data and information that the enterprise already possesses. And this is good to be here. It's evening here in India, Bangalore. We're based out of Bangalore in India, and I think what makes it's morning. So it's good to be here, and hopefully we will have some good insights and talks throughout this particular conversation. So excited to be here, Manisha.
Great. So moving on, we all know that in the past year has been a kind of a roller coaster ride for everyone around the world, especially given the fact that everyone has moved into complete remote only operations. Rupam, would you like to put some light into the challenges that you have faced over the past year running this organization?
Well, I think it was not really a challenge per se in the last 1 year, right? So it's been just one huge transition, right? And I think that's the gist of what you need to transform around, right? So it's basically moving from one way of working to another, which is dynamically and diabolically different, right? But bigger enterprises, I think, felt the brunt of it. Smaller businesses which are sub 20 or sub 30 people like us, for instance, we had lesser challenges as is. But what was definitely challenging is the whole aspect of not just utilizing software, right? It's software plus the whole aspect of how you design your workspaces around it. So earlier, for instance, if you used to have daily meetups and everything, right? Obviously, you can shift it to a Google Meet or a Skype or Zoom. Zoom has grown exponentially over the last 1 year. But what's really difficult is setting the design for it, right? So people being in their homes, how do you bring them on video? They have challenges backside of them. They have so many interruptions and obviously access, consistency of network access, a lot of these difficulties, right? So how do you define and design workspaces around the tools? Yes, but also around the fact that the situation has changed, right? I think that was one of the key challenges, and I think thankfully we were quite well abreast of it, and we went ahead and we did not have much issues. But I could see a lot of my peers struggling. Right. So what we did was at the very beginning of starting this, right, we made a collective of all of our digital infrastructures and setups, and then actually what we did is we took a comparison before and after, and what do we have to adapt to be in the after and doing well enough. We did that. So for instance, the meetings which were once a week, we shifted it to once daily, but we used to probably bring it out with 15 minutes. We changed, smileys and thumbs ups on Slack to actual conversations, right? Crack a joke kind of became a thing to do, right? So all of these things, I think, we did adopt a lot of digital. Our DG infrastructure budget has increased, but then at the same time, our office infrastructure and costs have reduced, right? So the buns has almost balanced out. So I think these were the challenges, and the fact that you could design the entire workspace around this is what was significant for us. And here we are. I don't think we have lost any people throughout the entire year and a half. We have had no cut downs. In fact, we grew, right? So that's synonymous to how you adapt.
Coming back to the crux of this discussion, right? So if we talk about digital transformation today, what's your take on it?
See, digital transformation, I believe, has been around for ages, right? So when, so today we talk about SAP and Salesforce as being this huge enterprise setups, which are, taken up with, humongous amounts of companies around the world have grown on these ecosystems, right? SAPs and the Salesforces of the world. Before that, if you look at it, there are so many of these BPM systems like Pega, right? And all these systems at their point in time were disruptions, right? Imagine this, right? So volumes of like multi-million records in a single day getting generated across point of sales, ATMs, those being balanced out by using BPM business process management tools like Pega, setting up account receivables, and all those things were all digital disruptions at that point in time, right? So let's say back in the 90s or something like that. I think it's been around. Digital transformation has always been around. The only thing is we are a lot. We are I don't know which generation are we? Are we Gen X or are we Gen Y? Are we Gen Z?
I think we're Z.
The thing is that in this generation, what we have is a lot of jargons and a lot of trends, right? So 2-3 years back, I would say when the actual artificial intelligence boom happened, right? So there were chatbots, and everywhere there was a chatbot platform, right? So Facebook rolled out, Facebook's Messenger rolled out, WhatsApp obviously has rolled out. And every platform that had a social network was rolling out a chatbot service. The thing is, and then we started calling it digital transformation, right? So digital transformation started getting equated to the adoption of technologies such as these, like deep learning and automation, robotic process automation, and then gradually the movement towards Industry 4.0, right? So I somehow differ in the fact that this is not actual digital transformation, right? Transformation has been around since the beginning. The very word digital transformation means that you transform your organization using the information flows that are existing or are coming into your organization's environment, right? So that's very simple digital transformation. I think it's been around for long. It will be there always. And the only thing is that tools have changed, right? The technologies to implement these have changed. What could process 1 million records in a month's time or 2 months' time, we can process in a single day's time today. That's the only change that has been there. And I think that's what it is today, right? So digital transformation, according to me, is about looking more deeper inside into your organization's environment, both internal and external, trying to understand what kind of data and information flow works through your organization, understand where the gap is, and then implement the appropriate tech solution to it, right? And also remember that it's not just a tech. As I said earlier, right, you could adopt any number of digital interventions, transformative solution. It actually doesn't result in anything until unless your people are involved, right? So it's a mix of both. It's a mix of designing for that particular environment, plus it's the technology. I think technology is hardly 40% of it.
Like you were saying that technology and people go hand in hand. How exactly do you think that somebody driving a digital transformation process in the company should go about this? Like, how should they implement it, or what goes in? The key factors, maybe.
There's no cookie cutter to it, right? So there is no straightforward, straight fill methodology to understanding this. But I think one of the thumb rules that we follow, right, and we have been doing this for the last 5 years and more, in fact, right? As I
Right.
say, today, yeah, it's with the sophisticated data and contextual sciences stack that we have built, which is proprietary to Needle over the years, right? But before that, also we were building in my earlier first venture, right? We were building
Right.
tech and applications and everything, right? So we were actually working on digital transformation then itself. But the thumb rule that works is not to understand, what solution or what functionality to build. I think the key is very simple. I don't believe in complicated or complex jargonisms, right? The key is understanding where there is a gap. What's
Right.
the information and data that surrounds that particular gap, right? So, for instance, you're talking about customer support, right?
Right.
Well, you could end up implementing a chatbot, and a lot of people are doing that to support,
Yeah.
to have this whole customer support automated and stuff. You'd be surprised to know after 2 to 3 steps in any chatbot flows, right? Your flow breaks up. You would have noticed this, right? So you keep
Yeah.
chatting, hey someone, hey X, right? So for example, I have a problem, and the X bot returns back saying, what are your problems about? Then you say XYZ, hey, you could fill up this form, right? That's where the
Right.
experience breaks. When you have a problem wherein you have lost your card, and someone is siphoning off funds from your card, you're not waiting to fill up a form. You want an answer. You want to connect, right? So where that becomes a flaw is we start building by functionality, whereas transformation starts when you start thinking about the information patterns, the data flow throughs, right, and that gap. So the problem is customer support. The data would probably be the input coming in from the customer's side. Understanding the cognition of that and then trying to match it with an internal system which actually will process it faster is key. I'm just giving a small example, but I think this is thumb rule, right? And I'm pretty sure it's not just me who will be telling this. I'm pretty sure the people who actually build simple solutions, who work towards solving problems, would talk about the same thing. So I believe, that's the thumb rule, right? So there is no one cookie cutter way to go through it. It's not like you study requirements, you study the environment, do this, do that, right? Very simple. Understand the problem, understand what is the data and the information interaction in that particular problem statement environment. Try to connect it with a deeper environment, and that's it. I think the parts when you talk about technology, that's a different case altogether. Right? So yeah, I think that's the simple way to do it.
A lot of companies right now are rushing towards AI. Like the AI is a buzzword at this point, and everyone's like, we want AI in the company. What kind of digital transformation? Oh, we want AI in the company. What do you think about that? Like there is a very fine line when it comes to differentiating between how to use your data and how it moves into AI. So what do you think about that?
I think the funny thing is a lot of us actually talk about artificial intelligence in the manner that, hey, I want to build an amazing e-learning system using AI. Okay, and these are not random things that I'm making up for the sake of talking on this call. This is a sales brief that I submitted last week, right? And this is not a small, and just to give you an example, this is not something which has come out of some wannabes, right? These are the world's leading banks. And just before, a couple of weeks before that, this was one of the world's largest airports, right? We talk about it in such a generic way, right? It's that, okay, AI, it will make our things happen faster. Or I think the problem is we think AI or artificial intelligence is magical in nature. It is not. It's a set of sequence of algorithms. It is definitely not the Wizard of Oz, right? So it's not that, right? So I think where we go wrong is not the inability to understand where you need AI and where you don't, right? So for instance, we spoke about this customer support thing, right? So maybe you did not need a chatbot for that particular thing, right? See, when people are in trouble, they probably would not be willing to chat. They need an easier access point, yes, but they don't need to chat for that, right? It could have been a simple, search for my query. If they don't get the search for the results for their queries, You could just have been probably a transfer to a specific department, kind of a click through, right? It's just 2 steps in that case, right? So it's so simple as that. I think the whole, the aggression with which we are adopting AI is just 2 things actually. One is the inability to understand, and then the fear of missing out, right? So
Right.
I think that's where the whole FOMO principle, right, applies to this, right? So I think artificial intelligence is not equivalent to digital transformation. A lot of the industry folks who are much more mature and much more experienced than myself would probably agree to this. But at the same time, right, I believe artificial intelligence is just an enabler to how you would probably implement a digital transformation program, right? It's not really the crux of it. You could, go about not implementing AI for that case, right? So it depends case to case, to be honest. And sometimes what's called AI is actually something else. So, for example, people end up intertwining machine learning to artificial intelligence. People end up intertwining data analysis and intelligence to artificial intelligence, which is not true. Artificial intelligence, or true ones at least, are things which can operate on their own with a set of pre-written models and algorithms, right? So that's all that is there, right? And autonomous AI is obviously a very far-reaching subject, which we don't know much about today, except the fact that it is on 2 sides. It's good, it's bad, right? So I think AI does not need to be brought in for every case and stance. Sometimes you could actually go back to older tools to actually solve some of your problems.
So basically, it all just boils down to the company knowing what they want and how exactly they want to fix the business problem that they are facing.
I have some sample cases that I can probably show you, right? To actually
Awesome.
further this conversation, right? Why don't I start sharing my screen and try to talk you folks through what is actually a very, very decently nice case of transformation. Yeah, we are using that AI thing and a little bit of it, but but we have used it to the point where we needed it to be. Right?
Okay.
So let me just share my screen and then let me talk you through.
Which industry was this with, though?
One of these is a very generic tool or a platform which can help you, take a decision-making process end to end. Now, it could be in any place, but this was primarily to do with the sales data or the sales environments of organizations. Okay. But the crux was to make informed decisions. The crux was not that, hey, we need to build a conversational AI or do we need to build something else, right? The crux was that you need to take informed decisions, and the informed decisions will be happening via the data you possess, right? Or that keeps flowing in through your organization. Let me show you this, right? It's pretty interesting, to be honest. So I'm sorry, it's not a hosted version that I am primarily showing off here, but this is something, it's a very seems like a very simple implementation, but I'll tell you where it is complex, right? So let's say, we are entering our details and stuff and the boring parts, right? So let's say what it is, so basically think about it, right? So every day, you have humongous amount of data coming into your organization, and what do you do with that data, right? You obviously go through reports. The management goes through reports at the end of the month or at the end of the quarters or during the quarters. There are baseline analysis. There is, short-term forecasts and everything, right? What that implies is a basis for your management or for any managerial level or any administrative level to take decisions which impacts the way the bottom lines and the top lines of a business work or turn out to be. Right? Now, that's something that requires a transformative solution which can not only help you just take this fancy bot and you can talk to it and you can understand what's going on. Yes, you can do that. But it also requires a significant amount of understanding what is the data behind the scenes. This is something we built, as an implementation of one of our cases, of the use cases we received, is to take data that's at many places, right? Bring it at one place and create a data lake environment which stores the data structured to a particular need. The need here being the top team leads and the leadership members need to take decisions on the basis of these reports. Now you would have seen the data coming in many places and the whole tableaus and the whole intelligence dashboards, which are very great. Yes, this is how a transformative solution, which not only takes in data, shows you the visualization, it interprets what it is for you, right? So let's see how it works, right? And this was probably taken a long time back, and that's why it might be a bit off. But what I want to really push out for you is just this, that how data is coming into the system so effortlessly, right? And this is not singular data, right? This is data from across. If you see here, right, this is sales, the product sales, right? So it's a product sales data. Channel sales, where are you getting that data from? That's a different source altogether. Then sales by region, right? Product types, everything, right? And this is purely dynamic in nature, right? So that's how important data is to everything we do, right? And the fact is that data is always going to keep changing. The information that the transformed data, the process data contains is always going to keep changing. It keeps evolving, right? And this is what it is, right? So you need to first of all understand that piece. And even now, right, it's not about, that did we want to write a conversational AI for it or anything else. The key was to understand what is the output that would come out of this. How can we process that into a simple, tangible design? And how does that get accessed by the key people involved in this, or the key stakeholders involved in this process, the process of decision making? So this is how you should, I would advise companies looking to actually do, who are talking about digital transformation or building transformative solutions to transform the way they work, the way they access data, the way they make decisions. I think this is how you do it. It's a very simple thing. You understood your gap. You don't know what your data means. You don't know what your data in X location, Y location, Z location contains. You figure out a way to get all those data together, work process on top of it, and then you make contextual derivations on top of it, because people think in terms of context. The human brain is engineered by God, obviously, to talk in terms of context, but it is, right? So you'll understand what I'm talking about. Right?
Yeah, I think I like the place where you mentioned that data comes from different departments from within the company. I think that's another thing that people generally miss out on, because this is actually a vast thing within data, where especially when it comes to say, for example, sales that we're talking about at this point. So there's so many departments that come into picture, like the supply and chain, and there's inventory. There are a lot of things that come into picture. So how exactly did you just think of pulling all of this together and then making sense of the data that you have?
First of all, we are pretty smart as this.
Yes, that is true. I have to accept that.
No, we are very simple folks, right? So we don't think so complex. We don't think in terms of complicated tech. What we thought about is this, right? So we are a data and context-oriented company, right? So we work on things like what is behind the scenes. How can the entire mass of data start making sense for different kinds of applications? Right? In this case, what we have eventually evolved into is a conversational assistant, but In another case, we could have worked across a solution which was merely a Q&A, question and answer solution. The front end does not matter on as much. It matters when it comes to how do you want your user groups to access the solution. But coming back to your question, Megs, there is so much of data, right? So you need to understand that this data keeps evolving and changing day in and day out, especially sales data, right? For retail companies, especially, the sales changes every day, right? And probably every day at close of days, the whole, the data gets processed from your POS systems, from different, mall system, chain systems, and everything. It comes to probably it might come to a single location. It might not come to a single location. What we did is we solved for centralizing all of this data, right? As raw as it is, stored it in a secure environment, end-to-end encrypted at rest, in transit, and at work. And what we did is, from there, we made silos of decision-making processes, right? And for each silo, what kind of data do we need to pull? We have built a very unique system here. We have built a unique, transformation, data transformation solution. We have put it in between this front end and also the back end, right? And what we do is, as soon as you say this, for example, if you have noticed here, I asked for sales attainment. Now, what is sales attainment, right? So it's basically how much of achievement you have done in your sales, right? So a lot of people actually think about that. So this is a decision, basically. This is a information section which is important to take a decision, let's say. So what we do is, for sales attainment, we probably crisscross and combine a couple of data sets which needs to be actually transformed, and then we bring it here. So what is the data that you need? You need planned revenue and you need actual revenue. So we create these interpretative or interpretation-oriented reports on the fly. And that's how it is. That's as simple as that. But it's obviously not very simple to transform everything. But it's very simple in the way that you present it. And I think that's what transformation means to me, right? It should not be complex. It's not about making life more complicated than it already is.
True that. It's supposed to make life simpler, right?
It's absolutely. I mean, it's supposed to make it simpler. A lot of us, the place where we go wrong is that we start, trying to complicate things by using solutions, a huge number of solutions with a huge number of functions, right? It's not required. What you need is what you should build, right? That's all.
It's true that.
Right.
So this seems like a very interesting example that you've shown here. So this is for the sales within retail?
Yeah, this particular the data implementation that we are showing you is for the retail companies. And you don't need to we don't need to see this, but this is how you think through things, right? As soon as you have a decision about, hey, you know what, your sales achievement or a sales attainment has been low in particular areas, you want to investigate, you want to find out what's gone wrong. So what you do is you probably start setting up a meeting, right? So as I said, right, this is a completely different functionality. The exploratory and interpretation-oriented analysis, which is behind on the screen, is a different function altogether. But to think about it, it's a logical step-by-step function. So that's how I believe digital transformation is supposed to be. It's supposed to connect end-to-end, one integrated thing, and bang, you got a solution, right? So that's all there is. And I think in all this talks, we forgot about what we actually started with. But yeah, folks, if you're looking at this is how you're supposed to be solving your digital problems. Right? So I'll push forward from here because I've shown you what I wanted to show you. The simplicity in the manner of organizing your data, then processing it and presenting it, right? So I think that's all there is to digital transformation, right? You can read up the meaning on Wikipedia. It says the same thing, right? So that's all there is to it.
One question here. You mentioned that digital transformation is a step-by-step process, and it involves people understanding what the problem is and then knowing the kind of solution that is required for a specific problem rather than complicating the situation, just knowing how to use your data. So do you think leadership plays a very important role in this? To somebody who can guide you through the process, somebody who can, tell you what is right and what's probably not.
It's very difficult for me to answer that, right? But I think it's true. It's not only leadership, right? It's leadership. It's the advisory. It's the boards. It's the need of the hour. It's the people, right? Internal to the organization. I think that is very significantly important. The decisions you take, right? For example, I think I had this healthcare company which came to me saying that, hey, we need something for predictive healthcare. Predictive healthcare is huge today, right? What I did not understand is the whole decision about utilizing years of research into building predictive algorithms, right? Which are not, a knowledge base in that particular organization, versus actually working on the knowledge base, right?
Right.
You see the difference, right? So you cannot ask the company to just come and build your IP. You need to, first of all, think about the IP that you want to create. If you are, let's say this company was a product organization, you're supposed to know what you're trying to create. You're supposed to know your IP. You cannot ask a company, and I might go to the extent of saying that a company which has this product like us, like we have a stack, and we're building on top of it to actually build your IP for you, that's not going to work, right? On the other hand, for example, there is this travel organization that's a 65 plus year old travel organization that we are working with. I think they understand their problem really well. They're not looking at us building an IP for them. What they're looking at us doing is utilizing the whole balance and checks of information and data that they already have in their environments and building a transformative end system which actually utilizes this to present the workflows they need, right? As simple as that. So you see the key decisions separation, right? So one side there is a decision which knows that there is a problem and we have to solve it. Yes, we are adopting digital transformation, but we aren't really going to be saying that, hey, this is our IP, right? No one can, so that IP always comes from inside, right? It cannot come from someone else, right? And if it's coming from someone else, you better pay for it. So yeah, I mean, but then the other side of this is like, so you have to take your calls, right? You need to know where you need to adopt digital transformation. You need to know where you have to originate internal research. There's a vast world of difference between that. So leadership, yes, very key to taking things through.
I did hear that you've worked with multiple industries. So do you have any other industries that you could talk about, or is it the same when it comes to every industry, or are there different approaches that you have for specific industries?
The workflows and the domain understanding changes. I cannot profess to be an expert in every domain, obviously. My personal experience lies a lot with working in the fintech and currently the travel domains, right? So I quite know those domains. One of my other colleagues is actually an expert on the insurance and insurance-related tech domains. But the essence of transformation does not change. That's, as I said, right? App, data, environment, solution, right? That's all it is. But the workflows, the understanding of domains changes, right? The core technologies might not change. So, for example, making sense of data and presenting the right data when you're searching for something in travel is equivalent to making sense of data, deciding where it has to go, and processing it through. It's the same, but it happens in different cycles in insurance. Let's say, for example, in insurance, you need the file to flow to a correct location. In travel, or in this particular travel organization solution, you just need it to be present to the person who's searching for it, right? So there's so much of difference. So you could implement it as search in one way, process automation agent in the other, right? Those are the changes which come around as per the use case. But the code does not change, right? The process flows changes, the domain understanding changes, of course. And you need to know the risks. So risks in a consumer oriented company of consumption oriented company is going to be less. The risk in millions of dollars of insurance being processed and claimed for, there is obviously risk. We have worked in BFSI. The BFSI obviously includes insurance, but we have worked in building neobanks in the US, and the risks are huge. We got, there is always going to be that factor when you'll be defrauded, especially these new age neobanks wherein you can invest, you can spend your money, you can withdraw your money, and there is a huge lot of things that goes behind it. So understanding of the risks and the processes of every domain is very much required to implement solutions. But as I said, the foundation, the baseline is the same.
Digital innovation has been helping other enterprises adopt digital transformation solutions. So how has it worked out internally? And is there any in-house inspiration that fuels this journey?
It's a difficult question, right? So internal inspiration would be probably the fact that we have always worked around what information means, right? And it was a chance even that we stumbled upon digital transformation going big, right? There is nothing called a digital transformation solution. There's no specific solution which brings in digital transformation. It's a paradigm, it's a philosophy, right? It's something you do, right? It's something you adopt. And I think the whole inspiration is this, that you have so much of information. How do you securely manage, organize, and process that information and data to arrive at solutions which actually harness the whole essence of digital transformation for your organization? I think we as a company find it very beautiful, right? You cannot do something which takes so much of pain and so much of passion without being actually passionate about it, right? So I think we really believe in the power of meaningful information and data and the impact it creates in workspaces today, right? And that's what I think is the essence of digital transformation as well. So naturally we'll incline towards it, but I think that's what it is, right? So we are really inclined and inspired by what's behind the scenes of data and information. That's roughly it, the everything else, our stacks, which is the N engine, or we call it the meaning engine for outside folks, right? All those are mere enablers, right? You need to have this inside your organization. It's supposed to be culture. And I think that's all there is.
The key takeaway that I take from this discussion is data is the crux of any transformation. So you basically have to first focus on how your information flows through across departments, across verticals, and across your organization, basically.
I think we're good. We got a lot of information from Rupam today, and it was extremely helpful to know what exactly goes in within an organization for people
Right.
who drive technology, and it was very interesting to understand what you do in the company.
And it's interesting to discuss this, right? And hopefully, sometime in the near future, I can show off a bit of more of the solutions that actually exemplify this whole thing, the aspect of data, process, and then the transformative solution coming together, right? So probably that's going to come up soon in the next hopefully a few webinars, a few sessions that we do. And thank you so much, Manisha. Thank you so much, Meeks, for having me over for this particular chat. And hopefully it was insightful even for the rest of the audience that's kicking in soon. And hopefully we can make more sense as we move forward.